All right, let's see what we got here. All right, everyone, out to our one concurrent viewer that's currently there. Welcome to the Readings with Rebecca pre-show, where I work out the bugs in my streaming setup before we go fully live. We are about 7 minutes out. And everything looks to be working fine. If our one viewer is paying any attention there, how are we looking over there? The quiet waiting for people to show up. I guess this is where I can start talking about spoilers for the future, right? Teach you guys to show up early. I'm just teasing. See, normally, I have someone with me up on the screen, but not today. We're live, alone. Oh dear. But okay. I guess we're just going to go ahead and make some time while we wait for people to show up. If anybody shows up. Sadness. So I'm fairly certain that our one concurrent viewer is currently our IT department. So hello IT department. I appreciate all of your support. Nice to know that I've always got you in my corner. And allow me to just get ahead of the curve and ask, why isn't this working? We are about 4 minutes away. We are still only showing one concurrent viewer. An auspicious start. But we will see what happens as the stream rolls on. It's going to be a really smooth, quick stream, I guess, if things don't shake out too much. We'll have to see what happens. Alrighty. Well, slowly getting closer to that noontime hour. At least here on the Pacific side of the United States. It's been rainy, it's been cold. Don't have any energy. It's winter, you know. Oh, someone just showed up. Hi, whoever you are. It's nice to have you here. Hey, Finley. Finley is one of our Patreon subscribers. Thank you very much for being a supporter. It's wonderful to have you here at this inaugural reading of Dawnbreak, the novel that almost started it all. We'll go into a little bit more into that after we get past noon and we give everybody some chances to roll in. How's your week going there, Finley? It's a good thing. It's a good thing. There's like a 5 or 10 second delay, so if you see me ask a question and then it's just silence, it's just I can only ad lib so quickly. And yeah. Well, that's a good thing, when you average out to decent, that's where you want to get to. I'm glad things are going better. I'm sorry you had a rough start though. I know how that goes. Saturdays are actually I take 2 days off a week from my fitness regimen that I go through for the Pacific Crest Trail. I am really pushing hard right now. And let me tell you, when I get up on just before Sunday, because I get up about 11 o'clock at night to go to the gym to train, uh, oh man, it takes so much motivation and so much coffee. I have to push so hard sometimes, just I don't want to. Oh, we got some more people coming in now. That makes sense. We're just about at the noontime hour. Welcome to our newest viewers. It's good to have you here. We'll be getting kicked off here in just a minute. Hey, it's Bones and Hot Sauce, Maya Miller, our resident trombonist and editor. Well, intern editor. Yeah, Finley, that's just kind of the way things go. You've got to sometimes make the decision to do even if you don't feel like doing, you know? And we're almost to time here. It's the final countdown. Okay, I'll save you my singing. Feels so weird being the only one here. Like I'm on the spot. It's a little bit more nerve-wracking. So, well, my watch just told me it's noon and it's synchronized by GPS, so it has to be right. Unless the GPS is unsynchronized, and then a lot of things are about to go very, very wrong. But anyway, I'd like to welcome you to the first installment of Readings with Rebecca. It's really great to have everyone here. I see that we're up to 4 concurrent viewers now. It's awesome that we've got so many people to show up to support our first inaugural stream. I'm very excited to do this. I was working it out today. It's very rare that when you're a writer, a fiction writer, that you need a calculator. Well, I say that there are times when I'm writing a science fiction scene and I have to work out some kind of conversion, some kind of thing, and I've got the calculator out. But by and large, if you want a number, you make it up, and then I run it through my technical advisor, and he tells me why I'm insane, and then he gives me the number that I didn't bother to look up in the first place, and things work out. It's very synergistic. But I digress. I was working it out on a calculator how many chapters I need to read each day. Well, not each day, each Saturday, because we're going to be doing these every single Saturday. Sometimes potentially Sunday because, timing and all of that, but it'll all be announced until I leave for the Pacific Crest Trail, which will be on March 19th, 2020. And so today we're going to go through about 4 chapters of Dawnbreak. Now, Dawnbreak is a very special story because of all the therapy pills I get and letters from lawyers. No. Dawnbreak is a very special story because I promised myself, I told people that it was a story I would never write, which is interesting. You see, Exile's Return, which is now known as Book 2, in the Farthest Star universe was the first novel I ever wrote. It was traditionally published in 2014. And there are references to what happens in Dawnbreak in Exile, which determined how Dawnbreak was ultimately going to go. And that's one of the reasons why I said, I'm never going to write this story. It's going to be too hard. It's going to hurt too much. Some of the concepts are way too close to home for me. And it just had to be written. And to be honest, of all the things I've ever written, Dawnbreak is one of the works I am the most proud of, if not the most proud of. As hard as it is, as personal of a story as it is, as hard as it hits every time I go through it. I opened it up today, actually, for the first time in a while, and I looked at the first few lines, and I got a flutter in my chest. I'm not kidding. It actually happened that way. And that's because they say if you want to write an impactful, moving story, you have to write something that you feel. And I think that's one of the reasons why Dawnbreak means so much to me, is because there is a lot of my heart in this novel. So for all of you that have come to hear me read the first 4 chapters today of Dawnbreak, I thank you for joining me on what is going to probably be a very personal experience. I'm glad that I can share it with the people that do so much to support our work at Studio Prey. That is our Patreon subscribers. It means so much to have all of the support that I do get. So, with all of that said and all the heavy stuff out of the way, why don't I open it up for a few seconds, for minutes, for questions? We'll do a little bit of talking, and then on with the show, right? And let me see here. I'm going to go ahead and kill my email program so it doesn't pop up while I'm reading. All of a sudden, beep, 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 beep. My goodness. So, I see that we have 5 concurrent viewers. If you could, just give me a shout out in the stream so I know who's here. I know that Finley's here. I know Bones and Hot Sauce is here. I know that our IT department is here. Who else is out there? I am still here. I just got very, very still. As a writer, I find that there are times where I dwell in stillness. Mainly when I'm trying to work out exactly what the heck I'm going to write next. Some days those sentences fly, other days they fly like rocks. Really heavy rocks. Yeah, Finley is actually a fellow writer, ladies and gentlemen, and she's very kind of us. Very kind to support us at Studio Prey. Much respect. If you get a chance, check out her stuff. I should probably silence my cell phone, because I bet you guys heard that. We're very professional. Finley, I would encourage you to get back to writing because you know it's one of those toughest jobs you'll ever love kind of thing, to use the cliche. But more importantly, your voice matters. Your perspective is wholly unique in the world. There's not another one like it. And the only way that we're ever going to have the benefit of seeing and learning from your perspective is if we hear from you. And so I would definitely encourage you to put pen to paper. There were so many times along the way when I was just getting started. You can ask our IT department about this, who happens to also, well, anyway, who has been just a big supporter for many, many years. Uh, all the self doubt, all the I'm never going to make it, oh, I'm never going to have a readership, play the violins, the world's smallest ones, the largest ones, heck, throw a trombone in there because I'm in the mood to suffer. You thought you were going to get out of this without a trombone joke, didn't you, Maya? And, uh, and then I got published. And then I got a small readership. I mean, we aren't tearing up the New York Times bestseller list yet, but Dawnbreak has been a bestseller on Amazon, and is continually in the top 100 for LGBT science fiction. And none of that would have started. I would have never gotten this far if I hadn't pushed through the self-doubt, pushed through my own crippling, at times, insecurities, and put pen to paper. So, Finley, please keep writing, because our world collectively will be poorer if you do not speak with your voice. So, without further ado, shall we do some reading? You guys ready to get the show on the road? Once again, it's really great to have you all here. Yep, bone jokes with Maya are absolutely inevitable. One could even call her a bonehead for the jokes. All right. And because we've gotten fancy, here we go. Dawnbreak by Rebecca Mickley. Chapter 1. When I was growing up, most other girls wanted a pony, but not me. I wanted to be a sea otter. It was a fantasy, a hope, a secret inner identity that I quickly learned through the blood sport cruelty of childhood social existence to keep to myself, my daydreams, and my drawings. My identity calcified around that one fact, and so I quietly grew apart. I wanted to be a sea otter, but to my mind and heart I already was. I was just stuck, living a human experience. It was my deepest truth, my most hidden belief. How could anyone understand something so alien, so different, as not identifying with the species you were born with? And so I hid. Hiding became a way of life, and I soon became addicted to its convenience. There was no reason to reach out. There was no reason to share that hidden part of myself and risk the pain. Until suddenly, there was. I was in the nursing program at Ohio State University, but was doing a summer internship at Jerusalem Fleet Academy. The Earth military was actively recruiting, and it was one of a few good ways to pay for college. The program was a bust. I found out I was unfit for military life, but elected to tough it out. A summer in Jerusalem even with inspections, was infinitely better than Columbus, Ohio. Still, the summer dragged on, moments of freedom punctuated by long periods of ritual and military routine, until the fateful day when I met John Dawkins. We had been paired up on a blind date together and got to talking. One thing led to another, and then there was something besides avoiding Columbus that had me wanting to stay in Jerusalem. Heady first love, the passionate quest to share everything, to learn about each other. I dared, in a fit of utter disastrous foolishness, to share my secret, though I bore the scars of failed attempts from so many times before. I liked him desperately, and so I wanted him to know me. A fateful connection. I shared my secret, and then he shared his. A lifetime of difference, a lifetime of being alone, but we had found each other, an otter and a hare. The romance faded as summertime loves do, but our friendship remained, forged in the impossible truth that we were somehow the same. We became inseparable in spite of the distance, and now he had returned with hope itself, hope in tangible form. "Joyce?" John inquired, snapping me out of my reflection. "Sorry, I was thinking of past things. When was the last time you heard from Sandy?" I asked, my curiosity piqued by my brief walk in nostalgia. "Oh, years now. She graduated that summer, I think, and is at Lunar One now. Haven't really had the time to keep up." He shrugged. The answer didn't surprise me. After her attempts at matchmaking produced a disappointing friendship, she seemed to fade from our lives, moving on quickly to her next project. "You know, there are more layoffs coming at the hospital next quarter," I mentioned, pivoting the conversation. Fewer people were dying as nanitic treatments revolutionized medicine and extended the lifespan. Gerontology and nanitic maintenance were the only growing fields these days, and with the news of the Treaty of Gates and morphic technology, I had lost all interest. "Please, can we wait to have this conversation again? I just got in from the dock. I'm tired." "Press hasn't left me alone," he complained, definitely having seen it coming. "I don't understand how you can be like that. I don't understand how you can be this calm. It's possible, damn it. Why would you want to wait?" I pushed. "Your field is experiencing layoffs, so you're going to throw all caution to the wind, become a sea otter, and live on an alien planet?" he asked, his tone incredulous. "It's cruel when you put it that way, Hoppy," I spat. He narrowed his eyes at me, sighing. The fight was on. We were both caught in its gravity. I'm thrilled about Shift Tech, but I'm suspicious too. They aren't opening the gates to anything but probes until it's publicly released. Why would anyone do that? It makes no sense unless they want something. It scares me, Joyce. Let someone else be the first. Let someone else take the risk. I've got 2 years left on my contract. By then it will be well understood. We can go through the process together and then go from there. What's the rush?" he said. "Did those space snakes replace you with a copy or something? Are you hearing yourself? Why rush? We've both been rushing towards this our whole lives. It feels like fate, John. You can leverage your position on the first contact team to get them to let you out early to shift. The Medians would love that, and you know it. Then we can leave this all behind and be part of something real. We can start a colony together. The Morphic Colony Committee even selected a planet today. Sentioc 1. You know what we're calling it in the service? The Shift and Fuck Off Club. It's a risk, he insisted. And it's worth it. I'm tired of waiting, John. I'm tired of hurting all the damn time. How can you ask me to wait when there's an answer? All I had to do was sign up for the colony, and I'm in the first 500. There's still space. You don't have to wait, I begged. Seemed cruel to leave him behind, deny all he wanted. I knew this was his dream as much it was mine. No, he said flatly, finishing his beer before rising. You do what you want. You're my best friend and I'll support you, but at the very least, I'm finishing out my contract and seeing where this goes. I'm in no rush to become somebody's puppet. Or worse. There's just too many questions right now, he replied. All right, chapter 1 in the bag. So let's talk formatting for a minute. You want me to just run right into the next chapter? Or do we want to pause and talk at the end of the first one? Let me know what you guys think while I get a little bit more water. You guys having fun? All right. Let's roll into chapter 2. We've got about 3 more chapters to go. We're only a quarter of the way through this ride. Chapter 2. I was running late. Shift change report had run long at work, mainly because my relief had been late, and now I was scrambling. The Morphic Colony Committee was meeting today and voting on a starship. That was the official reason. We had to select one that we would buy from the UEA that was up to now floating in a boneyard. The unofficial reason was why I was stopping by the liquor store on the way, despite being late. It was early September. The Shift Tech beta program had been approved, and we were all in. Tonight we would pick our colony ship and celebrate. A strange man in a black jacket appeared to have been watching me from a distance as I loaded the bottles into the back of my car. Gripping my keys tightly in my left hand, I quickly made my way to the relative safety of the cabin of my vehicle. With one eye behind me and one on the door, a quick sense of panic built as I fumbled with my keys, a growing worry that he might be behind me, that I might not be quick enough. Sliding in and locking the doors, my sense of safety returned as I drifted away and quickly forgot about the creepy guy. Today was a day to celebrate. In 2 short months I would be at United Earth Medical getting my first boosters. The start of the process. Checking the clock on the dash, I was already a half hour late with more than 10 minutes to go. Damn! I sped up, bending the traffic laws. It did little good, but it helped my morale at least. Crossing Waugh's Way, I soon slid into a small disused building parking lot. It was an old church turned community center, so it still retained its sacred appearance. Crossing the threshold, I arrived just as the vote ended. We had a ship, and I had missed it. "What did we get?" I asked Ricky, as he turned to welcome me. The crowd was breaking up, as the official business was over. An ancient Gen 1 cruiser, the Horn Shark, BEC Fusion Drive Gen 1. The thing is practically an antique. He laughed. Ricky was our chief engineer and a future ocelot. "Can you make it work?" I asked, and a look of feigned shock appeared on his face. "You dare question my prowess? I'm not just an engineer. I'm a legacy." He struck up a dramatic pose as I mouthed the words along with him. "Grew up around the Beck ones. No problem. They aren't too temperamental," he confirmed. full of optimism. Problems? Sonia poked her head out from the former sanctuary. No problem, Sonia. Just getting caught up, I replied. Well, how about the other way? You're late, you know, she reminded me. I hadn't forgotten. The report sometimes runs long, and I had to stop by the liquor store for the party. You know how it goes. Shrugged. So, why didn't we pick a newer ship? I pushed. It seemed silly. The colony was being underwritten by a grant from the UEA and Martian Marauder Incorporated. Oh, another program the UEA wants us to trial. In exchange for taking the older vessel, we got a newer auto freighter that we can deorbit and turn into housing. It works out, Ricky reported. Makes sense. We're already guinea pigs in so many ways. Might as well double down, I commented. You never know. There may be one aboard the ship, Sonia replied. Wasn't that Kevin? I mentioned. It's Kangaroo Rat, you sea-loving asshole! Yelled a voice with a New England accent from where the altar once stood. We all shared a laugh as Kevin slid over to join us. Hey, freaks, he said casually, holding a drink in his left hand. Says the one that grew up at the edge of the zone, I teased. You calling me a mutant? That old game? What should I call you, a hippie? Boston was on the edge of the habitable zone. A nuclear exchange had wiped out New York and Washington, D.C. in 2030. Nah, we won't be mutants for a few more months, Ricky chimed in, not content to simply watch the banter. Fair, he replied. So we're doing this, I volunteered. Moving to a new planet? Another figure walked up to the growing party. I may have missed the vote, but there was still plenty to do and discuss. We had a ship, and we were moving to an alien planet. There was a lot to talk about. A tall and imposing figure stepped up. He was easily 6'4" and well over 300 pounds, a giant of a man. Everybody getting to know each other, then. I'm Mac Douglas. He spoke with a British accent, which gave the impression of a cultured, gentle giant. Oh, hi! Yeah, we spoke by tablet a few days ago. I'm Joyce Coswell, the medic for the colony. I offered my hand, slipping into professional habits. Colony coordinator, as you well know. Bootstrapping up with Ricky here. Good lad, Mac continued as he made a gesture, to which Ricky humbly smiled. I just keep the mechanics running. Paperwork is your monster, man, Ricky responded. Been that way since college. I talk it up, you make it look good, Mac replied. It was clear they were old friends. If this shift works out how we're expecting, you're the one who'll be looking good, Ricky said, as Mac blushed. I looked at them both, my curiosity building. Mac said. So how's the family business? Ricky asked with a grin, throwing Mac a lifeline. Oh, Dad is still trying to talk me into it. Bloody disappointed with the news as of late. He looked down at his massive hands as if looking for something. You're wasted running a logistics company. Mars will always find a way to get its fruit. This is starting a new world, Ricky volunteered. I hear ya. Looking forward to building something of my own, not have it just handed to me. Blood and sweat. Something real. Something true. He drifted off. Now that's a recruiting poster, Kevin commented, and we all shared the laugh. Here, come outside. Help me unload, I offered. We wandered out and started unloading bottles from the car. For the briefest of moments I thought I saw the man in the black jacket again, sitting in his car down the street, but that was impossible. It wasn't like he had followed me. We got inside and started setting up to get the party underway. It was our first real meeting. I was one of the transplants into the team, having no previous connection. A call for a medic had gone out, and my bachelor's in nursing made me an attractive candidate. My friendship with John, and name-dropping him to Mac as part of the first contact team in the interview, had guaranteed my place. There was so much to do, and we were at best a skeleton crew. Sonia was our financial expert, while Kevin worked in navigation and communication. Mac knew how to run the ship, and Ricky knew how to keep it working in deep space. Just like the pioneer days, we had all gathered to chase the dream of what might lie over the next horizon, and were determined to find out what, no matter the risks. 243 other brave souls had joined, and were waiting for their embarkment letters. It was our job to make sure they had supplies and a ship on which to board, and in the meantime, become a new person. No pressure. Still, for the night, there was the party. Playful banter, the beginning of new bonds. An hour passed by and we were all beginning to get comfortable with one another. Then suddenly, a Molotov flew through the window. It exploded into fire nearby the pulpit. Liquid flames danced across the floor in hellish choreography as the room devolved into screams. Then another burst through the window on the other side. Mac was screaming. He fell to the floor, rolling, as Ricky threw a jacket over him, patting him down, extinguishing the flames. The smoke became choking, thick, and oily. Still, the exits were clearly visible and open. In a panic, we all rushed outside. 4 men in black jackets and ski masks were waiting in the back of a truck. "You freaks are selling out your own kind. You deserve to burn," one yelled, before the truck peeled out. As we all fell back from the attackers, they threw one last cocktail in our directions, but we were already too far away. It pulled out in a fiery circle as we heard sirens in the distance. "Joyce, you need to help Mac. He's burned pretty bad," Ricky called out. "I can't do too much. I've had a few drinks," I commented before rattling off first aid advice. Nodding, he carried it out while I observed, protecting my nursing license. Firemen quickly arrived on scene along with paramedics, blessedly relieving me from my duties. I had no one to call. John was away on some kind of official business and would be gone until next week. Instead, I just waited, related what I could remember to the police, and hid under the gray blanket the firemen offered me. The next few hours passed in a strange blur, as my statement was taken 3 separate times. My head was now cleared, as I didn't drink that much, but still, the entire experience had left me numb. The police kept saying something about anti-morphic groups. I'd honestly never even heard that term before. Why would anyone care? Weren't we leaving? In that moment, the time couldn't come soon enough. The world seemed alien and terrifying, and the idea that someone would do such a thing just astounded me. It was futile to consider. Humans had always found reasons to divide and hate, and it seemed they were now finding another one. The desire to shift suddenly surged harder, feeling almost like an act of defense, living in defiance of the barbarism I saw in them. Knowing what I did about sea otters made that slightly funny. They too could be vicious creatures. Maybe it was a fact of life that everything had a dark side. It's just that when the dark side has a certain level of intelligence, it makes Molotov cocktails or nuclear bombs. Talk about scale. Kevin had grown up on the ruined edges of that scale's extremes. Still, the Mendians had made it, hadn't they? Earth wasn't burning, and for all their mysteriousness, they wanted to share. Was their success the proof that the ultimate trend for humanity was more hopeful than I dared imagine in that moment? After all, John said that they hadn't had a war in almost 2,000 years. The image of Mac burning pushed away any idea of enlightened humans firmly out of my mind. He had been transported and was in critical condition. No one knew for sure if he would survive, or what this would do to the possibilities of his shift. We hadn't even started, and we were already losing people. It wasn't supposed to be like this. This was the dream, what I'd been waiting for my entire life. It wasn't supposed to be a nightmare. No. I wouldn't let it become a nightmare. This was the dawn of my hope. It was always coldest the last hours before the dawn, and ours was coming just 2 short months away. Then we would have a chance to start again, away from all the crazy. After what felt like an eternity, I was finally officially released and cleared to leave the scene. I ordered a transport and immediately set out for home. I wanted nothing more than a hot shower, my bed, and out of this species. Just 2 short months after a lifetime of waiting, and my wish would come true. Chapter 3. Waterbreak. You guys having fun out there? Trying to see. Looks like I'm about 5 seconds ahead. I am speaking to you from the future. And to anyone that is horrified by the level of voice acting in this live stream, let me just say, I'm sorry. I'm doing my best. And I hope you're having fun. So, without further ado, I guess we'll get into Chapter 3. We are halfway through today's reading. I'm glad you're enjoying it, Finley. You guys are the greatest. Chapter 3. A week had passed. The police had no leads. So they just tanked him early? John asked, astounded. Yeah, the burns were to 90% of his body. Our medical technology couldn't fight all the infections, so they figured why not try it? He agreed. It's going to be 11 months in, but he's already stabilized, floating in there. I reported. Shit, so there's a cure for everything now. John whistled, leaning back in his chair. Practically everything's changing, John, I commented. Isn't that kind of the point? He replied, laughing to himself. Fair, I nodded in agreement. So if they just put him in a tank, why don't they just put everyone in the tank from the start? I don't understand what Earth is doing, and you've been to the workshop, John remarked. Mainly because it's not necessary. It's a long time to check out, and we all still have lives. 7 months of sleep is better than 10. That's at least how they explained it to me. I don't know. There had to be a method to the madness somewhere, but from what I understood, it was currently elusive. There was a knock on the door. Message, ma'am. Certified post. Sign here, she snapped efficiently. The mystery deepened. Quickly signing it, I tore the envelope open. The document inside bore my hospital's letterhead. It began with the words, Notice of layoff and severance package. J. Coswell. More changes! I waggled the piece of paper in the air. I'm terminated. Dramatically, I faked my death over the couch. Oh, you seem so broken up about it, too, John said. I was quitting in the next 6 months anyway, and I get severance, unemployment, etc. I'll be fine. It doesn't matter anymore, I replied. Still, are you sure that's a healthy way to look at it? You worked your butt off for that job. He pushed, then continued. Feel something. Throw a pie or a fit. Wave if you're in there. Yeah, and I can still do my job on Syntioc. In the meantime, don't you think I have enough going on? I countered. Hey, it's your life, he answered, holding up his hands, retreating back to his room. Pouring myself a bowl of cereal, one of my favorite comfort foods, I flopped down and turned on the screen in the living room, flipping towards the news. Will the princess marry Dirk Johnson? Tune in next week to The Drama Block, intoned a voice over the speaker. I rolled my eyes. Firm pass. Breaking news. More high-level meetings with the first contact team today as the now historically long debriefing continues. UEA and Central Command remain tight-lipped on details, saying that for now, there is no visible threat from the Mendians in spite of their level of technology. More on that situation as it develops. Seemed apparent to me that if the Mendians wanted us dead, we would be. There persisted in me a pragmatic belief in their benevolence. And in other news, protests continue at the Capitol tonight surrounding the Treaty of Gates, calling it blackmail, demanding more time before the technology is released upon the public. The UEA official spokesperson stated that while they respect the rights of all citizens to protest, they stand behind the Treaty of Gates and its fulfillment. I switched the screen to cartoons, something more informative and productive, and ate my cereal in a brooding silence. Watching the cartoon canary smack the hell out of the alley cat brightened my mood some. The poor, dumb bastard always came back for more, but the canary just kept handing it out relentlessly. For once, at least in the cartoon world, the little guy didn't have to take it. Maybe we could make it like that on Syntioch. Syntioch, where the little guy wins. The thought warmed my heart in a way that only hope can. When it's in full bloom, no matter the season by date, it's spring. It inspired in me an idea. John was right. I did need something to do. Running to my bedroom, I grabbed my tablet off its charging pad and dashed back to the living room, putting in a call to Ricky and Sonia, inviting them over for lunch. If I was going to Syntioch and had nothing better to do, I might as well use my time to help build the colony. 2 messages chimed in quickly. They were both unemployed and were in a similar situation to my own. Well, maybe Sonia. Ricky was retired after 20 years serving in the UEA military. He had started his career aboard ships, like the ancient Gen 1, something he referred to as the baling wire, duct tape, and pressure suit days. He was only 43, but he talked like a man 20 years older. I guess that was life in the military. Distantly, I thought of what John might be like in 20 years, but with shift tech, that was now impossible to tell. I hoped happier. I hoped that for all of us. 2 months out before the initial boosters, and something was already changing. In that moment, thinking of the harshness I saw at times in Ricky and was beginning to see in John, it was a viewpoint they had, where shared experiences from a martial culture shaped their perspective. For John, it had inspired such a forethinking caution in him that he was willing to deny his own dreams, while I eagerly sought out to redefine my relationship with happiness. If he hadn't gone to Jerusalem Fleet Academy, he might be with me now going through the shifting process, but that would have meant we would have never met. Could that have somehow been better? To meet at a time when we could have our happiness, before we had ever shared the pain of its absence? The idea seemed foreign. In truth, happiness had always seemed foreign on some level. I'm not talking black hole on a windy day, emo kind of never happy. I'm talking about happiness as an alien, an unfamiliar concept in your greater world. There's no hatred of the concept, no shunning of it. It's simply an impossible dream. No matter how good the day or joyous the time, there's a garish truth that hangs like a blood-red moon in the sky, heralding the deep and sinister conceit of it all. In this world, for all the time I came close to that feeling of happiness, it always seemed hollow, never full, authentic, or complete. There was one exception. A day I'll never forget. April 23rd, 2071. The memory was, in my mind, perfect. The clouds parted, and for the first time, true happiness felt real. It was the day I learned escape was possible, and my dreams could come true. There was finally a way that I could be a sea otter. true happiness, as if for the first time, feeling full, whole, and complete, like sunshine unabated, the first hints of spring after an interminably long winter. There was a way out. It was coming. The prison sentence was ending, and new, more complete happiness began to grow within me with each revelation about the technology. In that moment, I could see how its lack and the struggles that John and I shared forged our connection when I would never have with Ricky or with Sonia, even if it was now taking us on two separate paths. Nudging my reality, my tablet chirped and vibrated as the sound flowed from the smart speakers positioned around the apartment. Someone was at the door. Ricky and Sonia had brought burgers, and they had come early. I set my philosophy aside and dug into a working lunch. Chapter 4. Last chapter of the day, unless you guys want me to push on with one more. See, I worked it out where I need to read about 4.4 chapters every Saturday to finish the week before I head out on the PCT, which is going to happen, both the PCT and I'm going to get through Dawnbreak. So, think about it, and if you want, we'll push on to one additional chapter after this one is done. If not, we'll wrap it up for discussion and go from there. And without further ado, water break. I guess I just have to announce every time I take a drink of water. Water break. Now I'm just being facetious. Water break. Or maybe not. I just love my props. Anyhow, Chapter 4. It was late October. My living room table had become an office desk. Piles of paper, stacked like skyscrapers, rose into a city of discord and poorly organized notes. Running a colony is a gigantic pain in the ass. I was riding the manic edge of some high and terrible wave between extreme stress and joy as the days ticked down. The mountains of forms, paperwork, and UEA bureaucratic horseshit that had to be filled out and returned verged a Sisyphean maze and gave me a first-hand lesson in why I had never ventured into hospital administration. This paper-chasing craziness was 3 steps past insane. Still, that was not my greatest challenge. In spite of the rendered wood pulp apocalypse currently underway in my living room, the biggest challenge as of yet was finding a new place to meet. I had given up and had the last meeting here, which had resulted in an angry note from my apartment manager affixed to my door, threatening eviction if I ever brought extremist elements into the community ever again. Didn't I live here too? I had lived here for 4 years, and it had always been me. What was so strange about not wanting to suffer that they had to pin labels like that? Just 2 weeks before the boosters, and it was clearer than ever that humans would never make sense to me. 2 weeks, and then the spiritual divide would begin to become a physical one as well. Electric excitement strummed through my chest, leaving behind a pleasant burning as it chased down my spine, radiating out into my fingers. I eagerly tapped the stimulated buttons on my screen, dialing the next number. The location was a pool hall on a rougher side of town, but I was running out of options, and we needed a place before our holiday meeting. We would be in the initial throes of shifting in November. Graves Pool Hall. Gravelly voice, originating somewhere far more easterly, erupted over the line. Hi, my name is Joyce Coswell. My organization is interested in renting your hall in December. I went through the same old preamble that I had gone through 10 other times that morning, quickly signing a form while I had a moment to be distracted. The only way to keep up on the paperwork monsters was through steady attack. Never let them rest. Tell me more, miss. It's 200 credits for the night. A 100 credit holiday fee comes out to 300 for December. That fair for you? He asked. It was fucking extortion, but I had few options. Fair, I lied. Okay, let me just get this form here. What's the name of your group? He asked. I took a deep breath. Moment of truth. The Morphic Colony Committee, I announced, holding my breath, waiting. You mean that mix of stuff? Lady, you're crazy and I got insurance regs. I don't need the creds that badly. The line clicked off. God fucking damn it! I thudded my head down heavily next to a stack of papers. They tumbled, scattering everywhere. Thanks, universe. Kick a girl when she's down. I closed my eyes and repeated my mantra. 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. Graves Pool Hall went on my bad list, which meant nothing, considering I wouldn't even be on the planet in 10 months. Still, bad list. Asshole! Amid the paperwork and the never-ending sea of forms that mercilessly continued to flow in, a yellow packet had arrived yesterday, laced with ideas. It had some papers and welcome forms, but it also had a data chip. Sliding it into my tablet, it was basically a 101 of the shifting process. My first month, according to the simulated trials, brought serious flu-like symptoms. It seemed infinitely more fun to deal with at the moment. Idly, I flipped through the forms, letting them distract me from the frustration and failure of the morning. It was the map of my pilgrimage. And I wasn't alone, I reminded myself. They were all counting on me to find a place for the Christmas party. I dug back in and dialed the next number. Second verse same as the first, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth. I had struck out in San Jose. It was time to cast a wider net. I finally hit pay dirt in Santa Cruz. Morphic Colony Committee? I saw something about that on the news. Are you one of them? The man asked, for once his tone not angry. Yes, I'm the interim colony administrator. I'd gotten this far before. I prepared myself for disappointment. But I mean, what are you going to be? My hopes were rising. He was sounding ever more sympathetic. A sea otter? I volunteered, reluctantly. This level of openness about things so essential inspired a sudden and vulnerable awkwardness. Well, okay then. I have the place available, and I can give it to you for 50 credits. But one condition, he said. 50 credits? That's a steal! Mister, are you sure? I mean, it's a deal, but are you sure? Light. Sudden, joyous light. No more phone calls. It was over! Thank you, universe. I'm sorry I ever said a mean thing about you. Wait. My excitement had caused me to gloss over an important detail. What's the condition? I asked, nervousness drawing my elation out to a ragged and harsh edge. My chest vibrated as anxiety surged. I want to know all about it. This is whiz-bang, sci-fi stuff, he replied, and I relaxed. We had found an ally. Sir, what's your name again? Steve. Steve Berkowitz, he reported. I would be happy to, but you must come to the party. You will be an honored guest, I said, trying to be diplomatic, all the while feeling a deep and sincere gratitude. Well, gee, yeah, I'll be there. Just give me the details, he replied. Okay, Chapter 5. That was short. So I'm going to read Chapter 5 if you guys are okay with that. because chapter 5 is a good place to leave it. It really is. So we'll go through chapter 5, I think. I'm just going to find different ways to say the same thing I just said over and over again in an effort to pad things out. I mean, that's what the news does, right? Did that. I would be a comedian, but living off of bad tomatoes only gets you so far. Alright, guys. Chapter 5, and then we'll talk a bit. Staring up at the ceiling, I blinked my eyes. The sound of dripping was coming from a faucet in the kitchen. There was no other sound. The apartment was quiet. It was the night before. Well, a few hours before now. I hadn't slept beyond small fits here and there for the last few days. My excitement was riding to fever pitch as the hours ticked by, as if suspended in some type of thick fluid. The clock had become my most hated enemy. In a few hours, I would be on my way to United Earth Medical to start the boosters. The clock jumped forward an hour and a half when I wasn't looking as my eyes snapped open again and immediately itched, feeling puffy from the fatigue. Drip, drip, drip. I had put in 2 maintenance requests about that damn faucet. Lately, they were ignoring me. Part of that felt like I was being paranoid, but it seemed like the management office had turned colder since their angry letter. Drip, drip. Another jagged hour of light sleep. More dozing than anything. Remaining vaguely aware of the larger beats of my environment but missing the greater whole. The smoothness of the sheet, the warmth of the blankets, that feeling of holding your eyes closed in blackness when you wish to do anything but. Consciousness remained just a moment away, if not already there. 45 minutes more. My tablet, snugged into its clock dock, showed that it was both fully charged and 4:17 a.m. with an alarm set for 7 a.m. There were 2 new series to watch on my StreamFX subscription, and it was going to be warm and sunny for November in San Jose today. If I was coherent enough to read all of that, I knew I was doomed. I was done with sleeping. Rising, slipping my robe off my desk chair, I shrugged it on and wandered into the bathroom to catch a shower. 30 minutes under the warm stream of liquid relief provided a better resting environment than my bed had. I brushed my teeth and went through my routine, dressing in fluffy gray sweats, a t-shirt with a cartoon otter hugging a fish, and a heavy black hoodie. Headphones left pocket, tablet in hoodie pocket, thick socks and sneakers. Pretty much what every girl was wearing in the Netherlands this fall. Pulling my hair back into a messy ponytail, content I was now the picture of fashion, I drifted into the kitchen and began making coffee, thudding down heavily in my chair while I waited for it to percolate. That first life-giving cup, the mysterious brown liquid of salvatory grace. Coffee, bring alertness to my weary synapses. It's going to be a long day. The best kind of long day. I smiled in raging defiance against the fatigue as my anxiety and excitement surged and in a feat of logic took another sip of the popular stimulant. Who needs sleep when you can live on adrenaline? The door opened, then shut quietly. There was the sound of a man breathing heavily. John walked in, fresh from a run and badly in need of a shower. "I hate you," I reported, taking a sip of coffee and pointing towards the pot. He quickly gulped down a glass of water, then made a straight line for the hot brown liquid. "Good morning to you too, fish breath," John replied, sitting down across from me. "You know I don't like fish," I answered distantly, still fogging for my wake-up. "Did you have a nice run?" "Yeah, actually always clears my head, but the fish thing, how does that work?" he challenged. It was a favorite tease. Yeah, last time I checked you weren't a vegan, I shot back in familiar defense. Okay, fair. But here's the thing. Will you like fish tomorrow? His eyes flashed with an almost wicked intent, and his eyebrows rose as he took a long pull from his own cup, a smirk riding into a smile across his face. I almost dropped my cup. The idea hit me like a shock. I hadn't considered that. Huh, I guess we'll see. The smile ran away with me, and I found myself wiggling in my chair. Somebody's excited, he said, cooling down after his run. Well, duh, I replied. How are you holding up? I asked, knowing this had to be murder on him at some level. Oh, I'm fine. I got my run in. I got a lot of meetings set up for The Hague today, so I can be your ride in, he commented, talking about everything but what I was asking about. I know your tactics, Mr. Dawkins. You cannot hide from me. Still, I got the point. Hey, buddy, do us all a favor and catch a shower, I teased. But I've already run so far, and showers are so very quick, he replied in mocking tone, rising. John appeared half an hour later in his dress grays minus his blouse coat. The white dress shirt underneath was freshly cleaned and pressed. More monkey suit days, he said in passing. There was no taste in him for bureaucracy. In fact, the only time I had seen him close to happy, if bored, was when the Danube was on deep space tour and the conversations came in on hour-long delays. Thanks again for making the arrangements, I said, knowing he had to shuffle his schedule in advance. I'm mainly either at the Hague, Earth Central Command, or sometimes Lunar One. It was just a matter of steering the meetings in the right direction, he replied, making excuses for his kindness. Still, thanks, I insisted, and he nodded. That all being said, I've got some things to go over before we get underway, so I better get to it. Just like that, I was again left alone with the noisy faucet. Drip, drip, drip. Dawn was fast approaching when an idea flashed as I eagerly made my way outside to my tiny patio. The sun broke from the horizon, illuminating the sky in beautiful yellows, oranges, and pink fluffy clouds. It was a fierce and beautiful sunrise, my last one trapped as a human being. The dawn of my first day. Tears. I could not help the tears. Mixed with my fatigue, they made my eyes feel strange, but I openly wept. There was only a hint of the coolness of the shifting season to come in the air as the darkness gave way. There was fresh dew upon the grass, and a few straggling birds still singing. In the moment, it seemed like a perfect metaphor for my world. My life had been a forest fire of all manner of emotions, experiences, and agonies to this point, and today the fire would end. Even now it only smoldered, deprived of its ability to do any more serious damage. Today I won. Finally. That one chance to become, to be, to correct the mistake I was saddled with at birth. The last hour ticked by tortuously as I reveled in all the beauty of the dawn, enjoying every agonized moment. Finally and possibly it was time. A quick trip on BART to Oakland International Spaceport near the sports stadium had us quickly in place at the Earth Central Command shuttle pad, where John's issued transport was kept. Come on, we're going to be late, he charged up the ramp. There was no such thing as being early. I wanted to be there now. We're going to the Netherlands. It's not the moon. It's just an hour and a half from the pad. We're practically there already, he commented, sipping his coffee with sadistic intent. John, please, I begged, all hope of dignity gone. Okay, geez, I'm coming. He dragged himself dramatically up the shuttle ramp. I'll get my revenge on you one day, Mr. Dawkins, when it's your turn to go through all of this. I thudded down heavily in the co-pilot's seat, crossing my arms in dramatic fashion and made a face, childishly. It had the desired effect. He choked on his coffee, suppressing a laugh. "Tell me again how you passed the psychological screening?" he asked absently, flipping switches on the small UEA transport shuttle he had been issued. It rumbled to life, metal creaking as it warmed unevenly. A slight, high-pitched whine briefly filled the corridors as something spun up. "UEA Orbital, this is Bluebird 775 requesting orbital arc path into the Hague, United Earth Medical Center," John reported over the comm, briefly attending to business. He released a switch with his left hand and waited. "Roger that, Bluebird 775. Flight path is approved and guidance has been downloaded. Safe flight." The craft roughly left up, and then, as if discovering itself and its ability to fly, righted quickly, ascending up into the atmosphere. "Sorry, I'm still a little rusty. I'm used to the Danube," he commented. The sky was rapidly darkening, and soon the curtain of the atmosphere pulled away, revealing the eternal night of space just behind the veil. The small craft seemed to level off as John flipped a few switches. Two lights illuminated on the dash. Remote guidance and autopilot. The shuttle tilted of its own accord and aimed for a column of traffic following its flight path. "How long are your meetings today?" I asked. He was not only here for moral support, but had a job to do as well, which explained the dress grays he was wearing. "Oh, just a few briefings today, and then they're going to let me go. It's all I've been doing lately. Appointments here and there, more time in the shuttle than anything. It's weird after 2 years out there roaming." The craft drifted effortlessly as we entered with the rest of the orbital traffic. From my current vantage, I could see the rows ahead arcing up. We were nearing the halfway point. "Is it really that different from being out there? You always complained that the days kind of bled together," I remarked, making idle conversation. The craft slowly began its descent. "Yeah, actually. The days do melt into one another out there. It's vast and beautiful, but shockingly empty. It's kind of something you have to experience. But life has a rhythm to it, and after a while it's just what you do, one thing to another. Suddenly I'm back home and there's choices everywhere, options everywhere. Something more than just duty and rack time. It's kind of intense. Become obvious in the last few months how much his time upon the Danube had shaped him." An orbital transport drifted by. I watched it in silence, distracted for a time until it began to descend as it passed firmly out of my view. "Was a lot of paperwork you were signing last night," John mentioned, warming up towards something. "Formalities. It's not like I could say no. Felt like an offer I couldn't refuse. Sign or don't shift. It was an easy decision. Still, maybe you should have a lawyer go over them or something." It had been a 4-hour marathon of sitting at the kitchen table, digitally signing forms with my data tablet. Some of the text may have blurred together. "It's already too late anyway. It's not like a lawyer would have told me it was a good idea to sign. They were all liability releases and wrongful death waivers, and not one of that set would ever be willing to give up the chance to sue anyone. I had other goals and a new life waiting on a colony which had made the papers seem trivial. I don't want to start this, not now. This is my last few hours of feeling good before I have a month-long flu. This is no time to have an argument." Shift tech was miraculous, but it came with a price. The first month on what they were calling boosters came with a ton of physical symptoms from what they had seen in simulated trial. "Fair point. I'm sorry," he admitted. The craft glided gently down to the shuttle pad, and he lowered the ramp. "And by the way, congratulations," he offered, drawing a small otter plush toy out of a compartment just off the pilot's console. "Someone to keep you company while you're sitting in that chair today getting IVs," he explained, handing it over. "Aw, John, it's perfect," I said, taking and tucking it into the crux of my left arm. "Let me walk you in, and then I have to get to my meeting," he replied, checking a watch he wore on his left wrist. The weather was considerably cooler than back in San Jose. Zipping up my hoodie, I walked quickly along with John in tow. There was a curious noise growing as we got closer to the main medical center. Turning the final corner, a large group of people surrounded the main entrance, holding protest signs. "Save our planet!" one read. "Earth first!" said another. The crowd was chanting, "Humans only! Humans only!" Over and over as we walked through the protest line. UEA security had established a secure zone, but first we had to get there. It took another 10 minutes of pushing through angry, shouting people, but finally we got through to the checkpoint. "State your business," said a guard, a sergeant. "Appointment, Dr. Andropov," I replied. He briefly looked to John behind me and saluted. John returned it. He checked the digital clipboard. "Oh, okay, yeah, head on in," he said, clearing us. John made certain I got safely in the building. "I better go. Going to barely make it with the crowd to fight back through. I'll contact you when I'm on my way back. Good luck," he said, turning to leave. "Thanks," was all I had time for. He was already halfway out the door. I realized in that moment that it was a tactical decision. Excuse or not, today was hard on him. I was moving forward while he was standing still. In a way, I felt pity. He was like a starving man that wouldn't eat. He vanished out the door, and then I was all on my own. My hands trembled as I took out my small tablet and connected to the hospital's network. "Welcome to United Earth Medical Center," flashed across the screen and presented me with a number of options. Selecting Patient Check-in, I stepped over to one of the local consoles and placed my hand on the pad while it interfaced with my tablet. My details populated into the console screen. "Check-in complete," flashed across my device, and a map appeared. A blue indicator showed my location, and a green one showed my destination. Taking off down the hallway, I soon found myself in front of my second checkpoint of the day. This guy was a captain, though, not a sergeant. Suppose my time as an intern at JFA hadn't been completely useless after all. He checked me in with a disdainful look and roughly indicated with his thumb behind him, telling me to move along. Scurrying past, I finally found myself in a normal waiting room with a friendly smiling receptionist that had to be 5 years north of 60, ready to check me in. "Oh, hello, dear. You're right on time. The protesters didn't give you too much trouble, did they?" she asked, rising to get a number of old-style paper forms and attach them to a clipboard before handing them to me. "Everything's fine. More forms? I checked in when I got here." A brief sense of fear gripped me that there was some anomaly and I'd have to reschedule. My heart sank. Excitement had me on the razor's edge of panic. Every statement had exaggerated intense. The lights seemed sharp and every sense was acute. "Just a few last things for Dr. Andropov," she replied with a smile, and the despair quickly evaporated. My day redeemed. "Thank goodness," I sighed, sitting down, tearing into the forms. Then the minutes ticked by as I gave my medical history for the umpteenth time and again filled out my vital statistics as best I knew. Finally, I handed the completed forms back over to the granny receptionist and returned to my chair to nervously wait. I subsequently played with my tablet, downloaded some magazines from the hospital server, and slowly felt as if I was going insane from waiting. An hour ticked by. My appointment time well and truly exceeded. I slunk down into my chair, feeling depressed and sullen as my chest tingled from anxiety all the while. "Coswell! Joyce Coswell!" A nurse appeared in the door, and I shot up as if rocket assisted. "Here! Present!" I called out, a little too eagerly. My face flushed red in a blush, and the nurse chuckled. "Right this way, miss," he said, gesturing to me. We went through the normal doctor's office routine. Weight, blood pressure, vitals. My labs from the weekend were downloaded. Humdrum. The bureaucratic slowness of the medical system ate at my resolve. I was desperate for the moment, for it to start. It was supposed to be special, damn it! This felt like a trip to the official documents bureau. The time dragged on interminably. Ugh! Finally, after another hour waiting in an examination room that seemed to be designed by artisanal closet makers, Dr. Andropov appeared. Fresh air blew into the stale confines of my bored and bureaucratic day. Progress. Ah, Miss Coswell, very sorry to keep you waiting so long. The protests have everything behind, he excused in a Russian accented English. He was a tall man in his late 40s or early 50s, with salt and pepper hair. He wore a lab coat, dress pants, and a dress shirt. His thick black spectacles were a marked rarity. Most people just got the shot. It's okay, I'm really excited, I admitted. My right hand's trembling, probably giving it away. My left was occupied by the surprise gift John had given me. Let's see. Now, you understand that this process will be permanent for at least 3 years, correct? There is no stopping once you have begun, he asked, getting right down to business. Yes. He tapped the tablet he was holding in his left hand. And do you understand that this is to shift your physical form to a sea otter? Oh, that explains your friend. He briefly addressed the stuffed animal. You are choosing what we are calling feral. This is not fully approved, and the full range of side effects are not known. This includes significant changes to your neural and physical architecture. You are doing this of your own free will, and you have been made fully aware of the risks. He continued. Yes, he tapped another 2 boxes. Okay, last chance. Do you want to stop? He asked, his eyebrows raised as if for emphasis. No, not now, not ever. Let's do this, I replied, firm in my conviction. This was something I had been waiting my entire life for. It's fine. We just have to be sure, he said, pulling a small digital bracelet out of his right coat pocket and snapping it around my wrist. This will monitor the nanites in your system and relay the telemetry back here after we discharge you tomorrow. Will also serve as your ID and tracking for the program up until thinking. It cannot be removed. Do you understand? I nodded, after which he pulled out a small key and slid it into the bracelet. As it locked, 3 lights blinked across its front. It was black and fit like a bangle. There was a tiny digital readout on the screen that resolved from the 3 dots to show my name, J. Coswell, and underneath it had the silhouette of an otter on it. He led me into an elevator and we got on board. Pulling out a key card, he slid it into a slot. It soon began to descend. It opened on a deep sub-basement. Stepping off, we walked down a hallway to a room full of green chairs that looked like knockoff versions of subpar recliners, all in their own kind of stall. He gestured to one. There were a few other people scattered about the large ward, but we were all far enough apart to make talking noisier than would be expected in a hospital setting. Ivy bags hung from metal trees, and most people were listening to headphones or trying to sleep, ignoring the white-walled, drab world surrounding them as the contents of their bags slowly drained down. It reminded me of my time working the oncology floor back in nursing school. I was next up on the list. A nurse appeared and started 2 IV lines, 1 in each arm, then vanished, hardly saying a word, stopping only to scan my bracelet and check it against her tablet. 15 minutes ticked by. Another nurse had 2 IV bags. She scanned them, then scanned my bracelet. Something on the screen turned green and then reported audibly, "Bag contents verified. Deploy." "Miss, take a few deep breaths for me," the nurse ordered, watching a screen just above my chair. "Problem?" I asked. "No, no problem. Just relax. Your blood pressure just jumped 10 points," she answered. "Sorry. Nervous," I replied. She chuckled, hanging the bags and setting the IV. The first hour ticked by and I felt nothing except vaguely warm. Pulling my headphones out of my pocket, I plugged them into my tablet and began listening to music. Another hour ticked by. The bags emptied and a different nurse soon returned and hung 2 more. Then the first wave of nausea hit. I looked left and looked right, found a large waiting bucket, and lost what little breakfast I had. I curled up in the chair, clung to my stuffed otter, and tried to write it out. I felt like pounded garbage. My head throbbed and my ears rang. The light stung my ears, and, though nauseous, I was also incredibly thirsty. I asked for water, drank, and found it to be a mistake, throwing up again violently. Miserably, I turned off my music, curled into a ball, clung tighter to my stuffed daughter, and just waited. I had never felt happier. And there's chapter 5. That concludes our reading portion for the week. Shall we discuss? You guys having fun out there? And yes, Maya, I am the chairwoman of the Redundancy Department of Redundancy. Redundancy is what I do because I like redundancy. I stumbled a little bit at the end. It gets tiring after about almost 2 hours reading. That's not a complaint, mind you. It's just you get fatigued. It's kind of weird. I can read for hours, but it's the talking, I guess. Yeah, my father's a nurse. He's been an ER nurse and psychiatric and trauma nurse since the 90s. He just recently retired. And I myself have worked in the industry. I've worked in a psychiatric hospital, things like that. So I'm very used to the more clinical side, even if I'm not a fully fledged medical professional myself. Um, the closest I ever got to that was CNA training. I was a certified nurse's aide and all but licensed for a while when I was working at the psychiatric hospital. That place was run on a shoestring, and so they didn't pay for anything they didn't have to, including us. That was a fun job. But yeah, I tapped a lot of what I knew about hospitals and government environments and clinical environments uh, in that development. I'm glad you're enjoying it, Finley. We're going to be doing this, like I said, every Saturday, sometimes Sunday, maybe a Friday thrown in, but you guys will get at least a week's heads up in time to make your plans and all of that. And I do want to hear from you because we only have like 5 or 10 Patreon subscribers. And so if I hear from 1 or 2 people saying that they can't make it and this time will work better, I definitely will do everything I can to be accommodating. I keep real strange hours. I'm about an hour and a half away from going to sleep right now. I normally go to bed at 4 p.m. because I get up so I can go run all night at the gym. Yeah, it's recorded. Uh, it's going to be recorded as an unlisted stream, so it will still exist on the YouTube channel. And that way, our Patreon subscribers can come back in, catch up on the episodes that they miss, all that fun stuff. All I ask is if you would please don't share, because once that link is out in the wild, out in public, anybody that has it can view it. And this is a thank you to our Patreon supporters that give us so much. I mean, yeah, $2 a month. It might not seem like much when you're hitting that pledge button, but to us it means the world, because it's not just the money, it's an endorsement. It's you showing that you really believe in the work and the vision and what we're trying to do. The money is incredibly helpful. I could use at least another 100,000 subscribers, at least. But it's that emotional boost. I think that means even more because it's we're connecting, we're making those inroads with people. The tagline for Studio Prey is stories that change you. That's the goal, and it also kind of fits with my theme with Morphix transformation, all of that. I'm kind of a quirky type of author. I'm a xenofiction specialist. I do my best work writing from non-human perspectives, which also has a knock-on effect of making people that are in marketing pull their hair out when trying to get people to read my work sometimes. So once again, the fact that there are people that have read the stuff and loved it enough to subscribe is incredibly validating, and this is all for you. So as I ramble on, I want to hear from you. I want to know what you would like to see in these streams. What do you think of the format? We can talk about the work. I can talk a little bit more about the Farthest Star universe, some of the background stuff, the things I get into, just whatever. I am here for you. I actually am branching out though a little bit. I have recently been accepted as a trail blogger for The Trek, which is the world's largest thru hiking blog. My first post will be out there in the next few days. I just got my login credentials, and I'm going to be blogging and later on vlogging for them while I hike the Pacific Crest Trail. So that's another fun thing to look forward to after we conclude with Dawnbreak. And when I get back in November, we'll continue with either Exile's Return or Ghosts of the Nightmare Gods, and I'll throw up a Patreon poll and let our subscribers decide what we read next after Dawnbreak. So alright guys, I'm just going to put another call out there for questions just in case there are any. We're starting to push on towards 1:30. We've been streaming for about an hour and 30 minutes. And again, I'm so happy to have you all here. Right now, I'm working on Starfall. Starfall is way far ahead, but I've written all the way up to Captain Tosk, which if you have your copy of the book, you can see exactly where I'm at in the writing of the stories. Starfall has taken longer than anything other than Exile's Return and Rise of the Forgotten. Well, thank you, Amoses7178. I'm very glad that you enjoyed it. The check's in the mail. And I guess we'll just start to wrap things up here. Guys, I'd again like to thank you for joining me here for Readings with Rebecca. And we'll see you next Saturday. Oh, Finley, that's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. Got it in just under the wire there too. It's this delay is terrible. It takes me so long to respond back to you guys because you're waiting for the stream to catch up with what I'm saying. It's like talking over a space delay, like we mentioned in my novels. I'm so glad that you're enjoying. I'm so glad to have your support. Also, remember, Finley, that all levels of our Patreon subscribers have access to our Final Draft Club. We release our work about 2 or 3 months early before they're on Amazon in a serial format, about 3,500 words a week. So once you get your copies and you get all caught up, you can get the newest stuff before anyone else. The other cool thing about the Final Draft Club is that it's your chance to be a part of the story. We're looking for people to let us know about errors that we missed, things about the narrative that they loved or didn't love. We want to hear it all. The changes that you suggest might just make it into the work. Also, every cycle of my final draft club, the top 2 contributors get mentioned forever in the front of the book in a special thanks section. So just show my gratitude for calling out the things that we sometimes miss. There's so much that goes into editing these books. You can't help but miss some things. I'm noticing some things that were missed here in Dawnbreak, even though it's been out for well over a year now, and that's just the way it is. You're always going to find something somewhere. Well, we're super stoked to have you, Finley. We're super stoked to have you. And, who knows? If you're our top commenter on our next release, your name will be at the front of the book. Special thanks to Finley Harwin. So that would be pretty awesome. Alright, guys, I am going to have to wrap this up here, but once again, I am Rebecca Mickley, and we'll see you next time, next Saturday at noon. Onward, towards the farthest star. And we're out. Or I thought we were going to be. Oops. All fingers, all thumbs.